All right, so welcome to the Team Prosperity meeting. Today is Wednesday, February the 3rd, and we are continuing on a multi-week meeting conversation as far as the topic for lead generation, open-ended marketing, front-end conversations, etc. Already February, you want to think about the business in terms of compressed time frames, whether you look at a 12-week year or quarter, whether you look at a month. Compress those time frames and realize that 1/12 of this year, 2021, is already gone. If things are in a nice rhythm of activity for you, you've got things happening, great. Build on that momentum. If January was not what you anticipated, you need to kind of reset, understand what the problems are, what the issues are, either internally or externally, and fix those. 2021, I think, is going to be a really special year for our business model. We've been building this vertical for the last number of years. I think it's to a place now that it's going to explode. So if you are talent, if you are hardworking, if you are a visionary, if you are a builder, all these things that we talk about as the key skill sets for making something out of this is going to be a year of separation. And that's a reason of celebration for a lot of us. There will be some people left behind. We're going to try to pull as many people as we can with us, but that takes a commitment from their side as well. Remember, work with the people who deserve your time. And that goes for both the client as well as the partner side of this business. Last week on the 27th, last Wednesday, we talked about, a little bit more about marketing, lead generation, understanding your markets, what they mean, knowing what your as well as the company's why is, the difference between marketing and networking, connecting the dots in communication, learning how to negotiate for what you want, and moving from outbound to inbound marketing. All of this stuff, guys, is on YouTube. It's in the Facebook. It was emailed out. If you ever need to revisit, just understand the recaps kind of give you a general idea about what we covered. So we're going to continue with leads. Leads as the front door of your business. We talk about if you look at your business as a brick and mortar business, who's coming in the front door? What are they doing? What type of conversation? What type of customer service are you offering? Who's leaving with purchased products and services? Who's leaving with nothing? And why is that happening? So we're going to continue on that. Very, very, very first thing that we need to understand that will help you guys build your business as well as help you build other people's business is that we come from a mission of financial wellness. And it's a hot topic now. And it's gone from nice to have in the past to an integral part of well-being. Going forward, you're not going to be able to survive, much less thrive, unless you start understanding how money works, the money game, the rules of that game, how to win at that game. And that's what we do. So when you approach the marketplace, if you have that behind you, you should feel confident going out. And the rest of this is just putting the communication together in a way that's reaching the right type of people with the right type of message. So at the very top, financial wellness, huge business, huge opportunity, huge industry. And then you combine that with the fact that we're not bringing old school mentalities, old school processes. We're completely throwing this thing, into the hands of smart technology. And when you look at what's happening, the way that we live, work, communicate, engage with each other, it's all changed over the last couple of decades by technology. What we do on the financial services side is no different. So you have the mission, you have the technology behind that mission. You need to be proactive. A lot of people come into a business, maybe this is their first time in a business environment on their own. They expect everything to come to us. It doesn't happen that way. You have to be proactive. You have to be the aggressor. You have to be the one that directs people into what to do. Through the natural process of that, you will get trickle in business on both sides, client and partner, but you can't just sit back and wait for that to happen. You've got to be going out there, initiating the communication. Like I said, being the person that directs that other party from point A to point B to point C. And you do that and you are proactive because you understand. And this goes back to financial wellness. This goes back to the fintech. This is why you're doing what you're doing, because we have problems in this country. We have a retirement problem. We have a debt bomb that's about to explode. You're going out with solutions, not to problems that you think people have, but overall, when you look at the statistics, problems that people have. And that helps you open up your mindset as a business owner when you understand the problem, when you understand the solutions, to go out and package up this communication and marketing in a way that's going to get some people raising their hand. It's a simple process. No matter what you're doing on both sides of the business, you have your sources of leads. You have your expectations, not from the leads, but from the sources of leads, what you're trying to get in return. And then you ultimately have the results. The results are going to be the defining factor of whether this is working, whether it's not working. Remember, don't give up on things too easily. Give it a little bit of time to mature. We've got some marketing in place right now that went through a testing period. It's in kind of like an infancy stage. We're not expecting to make money off that instantly, but we know that in the long run, what we're doing on the front end is going to produce amazing results. So understand where you get your leads from, understand what you're expecting back from those sources, and then actually take time to look at the results, good, bad, or ugly, reflect on the successes as well as the failures as benchmarks for going forward. It usually takes 90 to 120 days to build a pipeline from any lead generation source, any marketing. So understand that when you're in the first, number of days or the first few weeks of doing something, if it has little or no return, don't give up on it too quickly. You've got to give something time to mature. Let the data be the final decision point in terms of whether we continue with it or whether we kill it. But understand that pipeline at 90 to 120 days starts to have some back business that trickles in that really helps the entire flow of what you're trying to do. It's not start and stop. I'd much rather, come out of the gate at 35 miles an hour and continue that pace than come out at 90 to 100 and then pull over and stop for a period of time. So continuous, guys, that's what we're looking for in your marketing efforts. Your marketing efforts should return lead generation. And that personal plan of yours should just really be concentrated on one thing and one thing only. And that's setting appointments for yourself or for your managers, if you're not in the position to handle these on your own. 12 to 15 appointments per week. So what am I expecting out of my lead generation, my sources? I want 12 to 15 appointments per week. Well, what does that mean? Well, an appointment is classified as someone with a reason to do something. It doesn't matter if it's partner-centric, client-centric. It's a person that has a reason to do something that you guys have uncovered that's a direction to the next conversation. So understand, if you've got stuff on your calendar and it's meaningful appointments that you're talking to people that have a reason to do something, things will manufacture and mature through that process. The rest of it's just tweaking little things like your presentation, like your communication, like your language and verbiage to help the other side understand a number of different things that we'll go through. One thing that's greatly helped me out in lead generation is I'm not the most organized person. So for example, if I'm communicating through, let's say a social media platform and somebody gives in their email address and phone and I schedule it from my side, well, that's great. But I know that if I get them to schedule it from their side, not only is it locked in with notifications and reminders that I have set up, that they can go in and reschedule or cancel if need be. That cuts down on the no-shows. But what this also does, it creates over time a database with all of these people who have had either communication with you or set up appointments that you can go back and touch on for email communication, reach back out. So understand that what you're doing over time is building an avalanche of contacts and data that you can go back and hit on and retouch on. But if you're unorganized in your approach and there's leads or there's data everywhere and it's not centralized for you to be able to go out and rework, that's a problem. So understand where your weaknesses are. Like I said, I'm not the most organized person. Something like this helps me defeat that weakness. The flow of communication in your lead generation is the most important part. Once you start getting some people to look at what you're doing, once you actually let people know that you're in business, that flow of communication is going to increase outcomes through strategic conversation. And this is really important. The strategic conversation on the front end, the middle end, the back end, very, very, very important. And this is really what it looks like. This is your game plan. There's introduction in terms of conversation, marketing materials, paid advertisement, organic, it doesn't matter. There's an introduction. There's some type of a marketing leg existing where you're using it to introduce yourself, what you're doing, the mission, whatever it is that you're communicating through. And that's going to lead to some general interest. And then we kick it down to some overview information. The reason I have videos listed here, that's most of our overview information is videos. We're letting the videos do the informational lifting for us so we can use that as a filter, and then we can follow up. And if there's interest at that point, it's our job to provide the conversion. If you're just talking to people, it's going nowhere, there's a bunch of follow up, that's a problem on your end. You're not directing the conversation. Sometimes that conversion is just killing the lead. There's nothing there. Let's just kill the lead. Why would I need to follow up with somebody that I can't help or who can't help me? So the conversion is just that. It's not a specific type of outcome. It just is an outcome so you can move on. And remember, the key tips when you're out there creating lead generation, talking to people, opening conversation, remember, people are wired to, be skeptical about things, to say no to things really before they even know what it's all about. So you need to always anticipate some resistance and formulate a game plan around preemptively overcoming that resistance. Your goal, guys, is just to get people talking. Get your prospects talking. That uncovers the information that we talk about, goals, problems, that we can step in with solution steps and action steps after that. So your goal is to get people talking. That's it. And then you are selling the next action step, not the end product or service. That's in the consultation. You're selling the appointment. Why are we going to take the next step? Why are we going to have another conversation? Once you help people understand this, and once you understand the key tips and how to overcome preemptively some of the initial resistance, how to get people talking, and how to sell the action step, the appointment, the next step, that's really, really, really important. Remember, when you're dealing with people, whether you're creating leads, whether you're calling people, whether it's that front-end communication and conversation, people are creatures of emotion. And when you dig down in and you find motivating points, you find pain factors, you uncover a why, then you need to understand people are going to do something because there's an emotional attachment to what it can possibly do for them, their family, their life, whatever it might be. So understand, we deal in a lot of products that are strictly numbers, math, code, all of these things. But on the front end, people are people. They're emotional creatures. Use that to your advantage and understand when you're talking to people what that means when you're trying to get them continuing to next action steps. Boring's going to make you money. And that means in conversation, that means in lead generation. A lot of the things that we're doing repetitively every single day is the stuff that's going to make or break your business. So when you look at that, the daily activity, the mundane monotony of building this out, it's not the most exciting thing, but you can turn it into small spurts. You can turn games into it. You can do some stuff to break up the monotony, but obviously the daily activity is going to build what you want. The follow-up separates the high earners from the low earners, the big builders from the small builders, and then being methodical in your approach, not just being out there with indirect communication activity that's going off in every direction, but actually being dialed down into what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and what you're getting back. Your number one priority in getting this business off the ground is just to contact people. You're in the contact business. And if you don't go in with, agendas, trying to force stuff down people's throat, you let people talk, this business becomes very easy because we have something that's so needed, or on the opposite side, because it's so needed, that creates an enormous business opportunity for us. Don't panic. If you're into a situation where you're into your business and maybe the lead generation is not coming as quickly, your marketing is not getting what you thought it would get, remember, we talk about the emotional cycle of change. When you start to realize this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it would be, you kind of get down that valley of despair. You have two choices at that point. You can quit, go start something else, and restart the whole emotional cycle of change, or you can actually get organized, don't panic, and then create something that's got solutions to what's ever happening problematic in your business. Don't get stressed out about stuff. Don't go into panic management. Just learn what's happening, why things aren't progressing, and fix them. First thing you need to understand is you've got to go out with intention. Why are you doing what you're doing? Because if you're not able to effectively go in the marketplace and you don't know what you're trying to do, it's hard to get other people behind that because you need to come out with aggression, with intention, and really understand what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and then go at the, the how part with those behind you. Be defined in your approach. Like we talked about, you guys cannot be everything to everybody. All of us are going to have different types of personas that we communicate better with, that we talk their language, that we get along with. Mine's probably going to be different from somebody else's, and theirs is going to be different from somebody else's. What you need to understand is it doesn't matter who you're talking to in terms of the persona. Be defined in your approach, who you're talking to, why, what you're trying to accomplish. And you need to prospect with a purpose. And this is very, very, very important. A lot of people feel like I've got to know everything coming in. If you wait for that, what's going to happen is nothing's happening. And then that drifting comes in. And from the lack of activity, the lack of results, you feel like the walls are closing in on you. And so you end up quitting. So you just want to jump in there. It doesn't mean that you can't be confident when you're talking to people. You've got, managers, you've got salespeople, consultants that will help you. Just understand that you can pass off the hard questions. You can pass off, the tough issues, the problems to somebody else for a period of time until you're comfortable doing that. That doesn't mean that you have to be a person that gets led by somebody else on the other side of the phone. You have to be confident. It has to be you. It's going to be one of the two of you guys, A or B, has to be your party. You need to learn how to close before you prospect. You need to learn how to develop a yes formula. This is very important. Not a yes on the product, not a yes on the opportunity, but a yes on what you're trying to get accomplished, the mission, getting assets on, or getting the eyes on the assets, getting people to watch videos, because that on the back end, the conversation is very fluid in a bunch of different ways that you can take it. You'll get better at doing this just by having the continuous activity of doing it day by day. Some of the things that you can do is small tweaks. And we talked about this past week. Alana put in a Facebook post, just small tweaks to the language, to the message, to the communication can have big back end differences. And sometimes it can be very positive. So let's look at two examples. Adding this to your business to make more money. Block time on my calendar. How many of these do we get through LinkedIn or other forms of communication platforms? I get this all day long. This is meaningless to somebody. What is more meaningful to somebody is, I would like to talk to you more about your business. I have some questions about what you do, your business, whatever it is. Please find a few minutes that works best for you throw your calendar up there. You build interest in what you're doing by showing interest in other people. Remember, if you're working, part of your persona is self-employed entrepreneurs. Show interest in what they do. That will build interest on the back end and give you an entry point to come in with solutions and, action steps. The key is, okay, if I'm opening conversations and I'm talking to people and showing interest in what they do and letting them talk, how do I position my product to sell to my ideal customer? Well, that's really perfecting the presentation part of what you're doing. And that comes from, making sure that you're able to take notes as somebody else is talking. And from the questions that you ask, get to a point where you can insert yourself. You can't insert yourself too soon. And that's really the art of this. You've got to find the why, the motivating factor, the pain point, something that gives them a reason to do what you want them to do, which is the next action step. So that's going to come in the conversation. Sometimes, you either have to find the why, or if you can't find the why, you have to back away from the conversation. It's not our job to help motivate somebody into dreaming or thinking about a better life. That's up to them. It's our job to provide a roadmap to actually get there. Who's your audience? That's the very first thing that we want to find out is, who are we talking to? Because if you're talking to people and you're not talking to them with the right tone of language, the right type of language, the right message, it's going to fall on deaf ears. You're going to have a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of communication, but there's no back end result that's a positive outcome for you in your actual business. So who is your audience? Who am I targeting? Who am I going after? Who am I surrounding myself with? And then what's your message to those people? And this is the most important part, because the message has to do a number of things. It's got to build a little rapport, trust, credibility, and it's got to build some general interest into, talking to you, into getting some more additional information. that general interest has to be built quickly in that message. Once again, if you guys are, I'll give you an example. Today, I actually got a LinkedIn message from a guy that I emailed. Let me see, it was April 28th, 2017, and he responded to it just now. That message is years old. I looked at that message that I wrote to that guy. It was not good. I've matured. I've gotten better at what I do. But, what is your message to the people? And is it resonating with them to the point that a percentage raises their hand and says, yes, let's talk about this? And then you got to get your message out. So don't be the secret agent. Don't, stand in the corner with solutions that people need without letting people know that you exist, your business exists, that, what you're trying to do matters. Because once again, if you lead with the mission, if you understand financial wellness, you understand the problems that, people are facing with money, not knowing how money works, lack of financial literacy, and you've got a legitimate solution, get your message out. Be continuous with driving the mission home. Once you do that, once you've got your audience pinpointed, you know who you're talking to, once you've got a message that actually works, and once you're getting that message out, the rest of this stuff is alignment and engagement, meaning you got your audience, you got your message, you got your some response back in the engagement, and the rest of it is just making sure you sort people in the appropriate places, not wasting your time, not wasting their time, and not wasting the company and the management's time with the wrong types of people in the wrong types of places. Your brand, what you care about, is very important, but you also have to align that with what your audience cares about. And in the middle is the sweet spot. That's your content pillars. If you find something that is very important to you that you want to talk about, but it falls, you get crickets from your audience, that's a problem. Either you got the wrong audience, or what you care about, no one else really cares about. So in between what you care about and what your audience cares about, those people that you're surrounding yourself with, is the sweet spot for your content, your message, your conversation, everything that you're trying to get accomplished. Remember, 3-step process online when you're getting to, your audience into a position. You're creating awareness, you're having some type of an evaluation, and then the end result, purchase, next action step, whatever it might be. Remember, these 3 things are also known as build, engage, and sell. You're basically doing 3 things online every day as you're building your brand and making people aware. You're building the audience, you're engaging the audience, not with continuous prospecting, selling, recruiting, but with things they actually might find valuable that would strike up the need to have a conversation with you, or have them wanting more from you the next time you post or interact. Remember, the conversion has to come from you. If you're just on the phone and you're nailing every other part of this, but you're not converting, you're not directing to the next action steps, you're going to create a lot of conversation. Then at the end of the day, there's going to be no business growth, income growth, no revenue growth. You're going to say, this sucks. Why am I doing this? That's the one part that's probably the hardest for everybody. That's the negotiation step. You have to convert, not meaning that you have to push people in places they don't belong, but you have to convert. You have to resolve leads. And that means that, a lead created doesn't, it doesn't end once it's created and once you have some type of general interest. You're creating the lead for the resolution of that lead throughout the entire process. And one of the best ways to resolve a lead is actually getting a conversation started with somebody, knowing those pointed questions that you want to ask, knowing that if you ask them correctly, let them talk, you get everything that you need. When you're talking with somebody, whether it's an interview, whether it's a consultation, whether it's an intro call, whatever it might be, make sure you're in a place where you can concentrate and make sure that you take the appropriate notes, hit on what you need to hit to make sure that you resolve that lead. Good, bad, or ugly, you want to resolve the lead based on the information they give you and you being able to read that situation to effectively create an outcome that actually works for both sides. You've got to ask questions. Imagine if the doctor, we went to asked no questions. So during conversations, do you know, do you realize, do you understand? Getting people to think more about the responses, dig in a little bit deeper, uncovers the additional information. This is all you're trying to do. You got to set the ground rules. You got to frame the conversation. People are a lot more at ease when they know what's going to happen, when they know what to expect. So going into any conversation, as you're creating leads, as you're marketing, as you're having conversation, you need to set the purpose. You need to help let the person on the other end know why we're talking. Why are you calling me? Why are you following up with me? Why are you reaching out? And then number two, allocate a time frame. When is this actually going to end? So why am I talking? Why are we communicating? When is this going to end? And then agree to the outcome. What's going to happen next? And then summarize the next action steps. How do we proceed? This is all you got to do. And like I said, whether you're in the sales department, marketing department, management department, when you frame conversations and you set ground rules, people either fall in line or they give you a reason why they can't. And if they can't, that allows you to cut a lead without spending much time, and you can reinvest that time into other people who are actually following the rules of engagement and understand the framework and agreeing with it. What's really happening in your conversations, what's happening in your marketing, what's happening in your lead generation. This is the most important part to understand, because if things are lost in translation, they're not understanding your whys on your personal level, on the company level, they're not understanding what you're trying to get them to do. That's the whole conversational aspect that is either going to destroy or really create velocity in resolving and creating outcomes out of your lead generation. So after a conversation, if things go well, why did it go well? After a conversation, if things didn't go well, why did it not go well? Learn from everything, perfect what you're doing. Once you can open, continue direct conversations, and you've got the presentation of what you're doing down to an art form, the floodgates will open in terms of being able to network, prospect, recruit, sell, etc. If you are not clear in your communication for one or more variable reasons, if you're doing something wrong, this is what the conversation actually looks like. The other side's not sure what you're wanting them to do. You're really not sure what you want the other side to do. You're both confused. Nothing happens. And guess what? Because you weren't clear, concise, articulate, that next follow-up, which was really, there was no action step at the end of the conversation, there's nothing to follow up with. There's no reason for them to pick up your phone call, respond back. You didn't give them one. So make sure you are directing conversation, leading people to the next action steps. If you don't lead, you're both going to drift. And that allows you to be able to have a fluid, conversation that can go a lot of different ways. If you're talking to someone and the initial reason for the conversation is not panning out, this is not the right type of conversation, depending on why it's not the right type of conversation, you can pivot. And this is very important. You don't want to bring partners in that should have been clients, and vice versa. So you know that what you're doing is helpful. You're on the mission. Now you just have to be able to make sure in the conversation, you can go back and forth like a ping pong match. And like I said, when the original conversation matter ends, if there's a way to pivot, extract value out of that conversation, that's your manager's job. And you should be learning from the manager how to do that so you can help with the organizational growth as it goes forward. This is an example. So, if you're talking to somebody based on a business opportunity conversation and you realize in that conversation, hey, this is a W-2 employee, they're happy there. They don't have the desire, the skill sets, the motivation to go out there and do an entrepreneurial journey, be self-employed, own a business. Then depending on, the situation, you can possibly pivot over to client needs. You're bringing in quality. Quality has to be on the business side, on the partner side, because more time, energy, resources, investment goes into a partner than it does the client. We still give that client everything we've got while we're communicating with them and helping them out, but that's eventually going to stop at some point unless they need help after the purchase from, client support from us, from whatever it might be. You have to understand that if you are recruiting people in to sell them products and they should have been a client on the front side, then that progression, doing that time and time and time again, is going to wear down on you. It's going to wear down on management. And you're going to look at your business and you're going to see a lot of fallout in terms of people who aren't doing anything because in the very beginning, they should have been a client anyway. So these are the things that you have to look for. If you're looking for business partners that are going to be with you for years to come, that you're going to help create independent agencies that they can go out and do this on their own, then in that front end conversation, in the lead generation for business opportunity for partners, you have to identify things that are going on. If they have lack of things, or if they have too much of negative things going on, you have to identify those in the conversations. If they're not going to be a good partner, there's an opportunity to pivot over the client side, fine. If that doesn't make sense, get rid of it. Don't bring people in just to put a number on the board. You're bringing people in to build nationwide distribution. Understanding that if you do the right thing, if you bring in quality partners that get behind the mission, that understand the entrepreneurship, this is where they want to be, then the natural build out of the base shops and agencies will create lead generation. If you're bringing in the right people, guess what? They're going to open the right type of markets for you. So the compounding factor of bringing in the right type of partners creates lead generation in an office and in multiple offices. There becomes, lead generation just from that action alone. It doesn't dry up, or it doesn't stop like some other things can. And then the power of referrals. If we're dealing with clients, we've got to make sure that we do the best job that we can for the client. And then when that value has been established and has been provided, and they actually recognize it from the other side, then you can ask for the referral. If you're doing great things for people, they're excited. They should be okay once that value has been recognized to go out and say, you know what? When I pose the question to them, who else do you know and care about that needs to know this information? I expect some referrals back. And then it's a lot easier, once again, if you're going back to the drawing board, leading with some type of an introduction from your client. Hey, so-and-so wanted me to reach out to you. We've got some educational material on how money works, whatever you're leading with, to provide that bridge that will allow for some additional consultations. If it works out for them, more referrals. We have to get really good at what we're doing, because if we do, you can see what happens with lead generation, on both sides of the business. And then if we're creating leads, remember the lead is created and the lead is resolved. If the lead is not resolved, was it ever really created? Well, through phone calls, emails, text, social media, you have to have multiple touch follow-up in order to be able to get in front of the person in their preferred method of communication and give them a chance to respond back in that same method of communication. Anything that you can do on the front side to help out and to create some automation, I think that really helps you guys, because in the beginning, it's you and it's you alone. You've got to get the traction. You've got to be the spark that builds this business. One of the first hires that you might want to do is just some automation, because that's actually like getting an additional employee. They've got that one task. They're nailed into it. They're not going to ask for breaks. They're not going to need lunch. They're just going to work. And then when that happens, what that allows you to do is create competitive advantages in the marketplace. So if you've got automation going and you can concentrate on the stuff that you have to do, that human element, human interaction to the business model, it gives you a competitive advantage versus other people that are stuck trying to do everything, wear all the hats, and you'll get a nice lead out in front of them. Everything that you do can be automated, should be automated. Marketing and advertising emails, branding emails, reminder emails, follow-up emails. If it can be automated, it should be automated. Everything cannot, and that's very important. But the things that can definitely should be. It takes that off your shoulders and makes sure that it gets done, and it creates appointments for you. And if that automation creates one or more of those 12 to 15 appointments per week for you, great. Also, you've got to create a system where if you're in an email drip campaign, which once again is a form of automation, you're not constantly getting in front of them with the same information, the same type of sales approach, the same type of recruiting approach. You've got to provide value, build interest again, and leads to some additional action steps, which is most likely just another calendar appointment. And then through the process, if you do a good job, that original email versus the first, second, third, fourth follow-up, the ability to get back in front of people, the ability to have the open rates and the click-through rates, increase over time, once again, helps with the appointments, helps with the pipeline, helps with your return on investment, whatever it is that you're doing, you're driving up activity and you're driving down cost through automation. And you always want to get to the point. If you sent somebody a few emails out and they've responded, they haven't opened, then you're going to have to learn how to disqualify sometimes. Sometimes people like to be talked to in a certain way that kind of makes them realize, oh, I do need to take action, or I do need to look at this. So when you're looking at this, this isn't for you. Well, that's a great subject line, right? Chances are my blank program isn't for you. It's nothing personal. It's just that only a certain type of person will succeed using it. And most people are not that type of person. The fact that you're here to begin with, though, it's a pretty good sign, which means you might be that type of person. But again, most people aren't. So once again, you're not trying to pre-qualify everybody into one bucket. You're trying to disqualify people into either resolving the lead itself or to make them realize that what they're currently doing or the fact that they're ignoring you is not the best course of action. Make goals. For everything, lead generation has to have goals, and the rest of the pipeline has to have goals. You have to have goals with a marketing plan. You have to have goals for appointments, connections, calls, follow-up, partners, advancements, money. All of this stuff is a very methodical build out. If you do it correctly, you can identify some breaks in the chain as you go along, fix those very easy. And then once you have the free flow from the top of the lead generation to the bottom of the outcome, it's just scientific from that point. Data-driven decisions, growing, scaling your business. Remember, when you're looking at somebody who's having success, it's not magic, guys. It's just repetition. They just put the work in, let it compound it over a period of time to get them to the point where they're finding that ultra amount of success. Cold calling is a skill. So a lot of people come in and they say, you know what? Maybe I don't have marketing budgets, but I'm just going to make it up with the sweat equity. I'm just going to dial the phone. Well, if you have skills at that, if you don't have skills at that, you can develop skills and you can get better. So whether you're a natural or a novice, always improve at anything that you can do by just continuing to do it. You get more appointments by continuing the actual activity. Understand that anybody, and we talk about this, athletes, musicians, surgeons, any professionals, sales reps, anybody gets better when they practice. So picking up that phone, sending out those messages, getting the responses back, having the conversations, those are all like the balls that you hit, the passes that you throw. The continuous ongoing activity makes you better and better and better at what you do, which increases the positive outcomes on the back end. Be aggressive, guys. I see people in this business that, refuse to answer incoming calls from someone who's interested in what they put out. That's problematic. Versus I see other people, a very small percentage of people, but they just go at this. And when you look at these two guys, Bud from Wall Street versus this other guy over here who's yawning, you've got to go out there. You've got to connect with your vision, with your mission, with your why. Why are you doing what you do? And then if that's strong enough, it should propel you to the activity that needs to happen on a day in, day out basis. Analyze your competition, whether it's, financially driven, whether it's online marketing, I don't care. Look at the competition, both who's doing it well, who's not doing it well, learn from both sides and get better at what you do. Next week, Alana and I are going to be going into some online training for you guys in terms of social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, the right types of messages, the right types of engagement, how to really come off as an expert in what you're trying to do with your headlines, with your messages, with your summary sections, with your post. It's all creating this web that you're getting your audience into that's going to create lead generation for you. So I hope you guys got something out of this today. We'll pick it up where we left off next week. We'll probably close out the lead generation multi-week series next week and move into another part of the business.